So in this video, I'm going to spend a little bit of time going over the syllabus. So to gain access to the rest of the course, you have to score 100% on the Getting Started quiz. So the Getting Started quiz covers a lot of material that's in the syllabus, as well as other material that's in the Getting Started folder. So first off, we have my email address. I will always try to get back to you within 24 hours, regardless if it's a holiday or a weekend. Since this is only a 4-week course, I understand you guys need to get responses as quick as possible. So I'll try to get back to you within 24 hours. If you're having some sort of emergency and you're trying to get a hold of me, you can also try calling my voicemail as sort of a backup. However, I highly prefer email. That's probably what I'm going to be checking first as opposed to my voicemail. I will be having office hours during intersession. So this will be Wednesdays in person from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. This is going to be starting week 2. So this first week I won't be there, but second week I'll be in S6112G from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Also, since some of you are not in San Diego at the moment, I'll also be having online office hours Wednesdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So depending on how many students utilize that, we can either Skype or we can use Blackboard's built-in chat room to communicate. If you guys have gotten this far, you probably know what the course website is. So it's sdcct.blackboard.com. Here are the CRNs, and of course the lecture is online. It's a 100% online course. Here's the course description from the catalog. Please note the advisories. So there's an advisory for English 101 or 105 with a C or better. Or you can have an assessment skill level of R6, W6. So one question I got asked quite a bit during winter break is, what is the time investment for Biology 130? So Biology 130 is a 3-unit course with 3 hours of lecture per week. It's important to preface this by saying this is in a normal semester. So a normal semester would have 3 hours of lecture per week. Since intersession is 4 times faster, you would have 12 hours of lecture. The standard formula for how much outside work, so homework, you would have to do is for every 1 hour of lecture, you'd expect to invest 2 hours of outside work. So essentially for 1 hour of lecture, 2 hours of homework. So for 3 hours of lecture, this is 6 hours of homework, or 9 hours total. So since this is an online class, we don't really have a lecture. The lecture time investment and the homework time investment get lumped together. So essentially 9 hours total per week in a normal semester. Again, intersession is 4 times faster, so 9 times 4. So you should expect to spend 36 hours of work per week on this course. Of course, this number will greatly vary depending on how your study skills are, if you've taken biology courses before, and other factors such as those. So there are 4 or so required materials. The textbook publisher has been nice enough to give you guys access to our textbook, Human Heredity Principles and Issues, for free. So as long as you're fine using an ebook version of the textbook, then you don't need to worry about purchasing a textbook for the course. However, if you want a hard copy, it is available in the Miramar College bookstore, so you can pick up a copy of that in case you want a hard copy. The other 3 items on here are things you should probably already have. So occasionally I'll be having you guys do worksheets, or I'll ask you to show your work, or I'll ask you to draw something. So you need some way of digitizing your work. However, I'm not really too concerned about the quality of whatever you scan or take a picture of. So if you have a scanner, that's great. If you have a camera phone, that works as well. As long as I can see your work and it's clear, it's not blurry or anything like that, then you're completely fine. Even a webcam will work, so you can take pictures with a webcam. Or if you have some other way of digitizing your work, that also works as well. So if you have a tablet or something like that, instead of printing stuff out and scanning it or taking a picture, you can just draw directly onto the worksheet if you want. So I'm very flexible for this. I just need some way for you to either draw things, scan things, essentially show your work on some assignments I'm going to be giving to you. Similarly, you guys are going to have a project this semester or this term I should say, that involves you recording some audio. Again, I'm not too concerned about quality as long as it's decent, as long as I can hear what you're saying, and it's not too muffled. So you can pretty much use any sort of microphone. So you have a webcam microphone. So if you have a computer with a webcam, you probably have a microphone as well. So that should solve this requirement right here. Even if you don't, there are ways you can use a telephone to essentially accomplish the same thing. And lastly, of course, you need a computer internet access. But I'm assuming if you got this far, you have that already. So these bottom three I wouldn't worry too much about. You probably have satisfied those in some way or another. So here's my teaching philosophy for the course, at least in a one-paragraph summary. So as I'm sure you're all aware, knowledge is constructed, not transmitted. So as much or as easy it would be just to post some lectures online or just some PowerPoint slides and give you 4 exams, I don't think that's an effective way of teaching. So you have to construct your knowledge by doing assignments, doing activities, and trying your best to learn. Next, we have the student learning outcomes and student learning objectives. So these are very similar. So these are essentially the things you have to do by the time you finish the course. So for example, you have to examine how cells store their genetic information in DNA. So at the very end of the term, you're going to have an exam that's going to cover some of this content. So as we get there, I'll talk more about these learning objectives and these learning outcomes. Additionally, since this is a non-majors course, I want you to develop some lifelong skills. These are things like critical thinking, problem solving, explaining the impact of biological research in society, so on and so on. Next, we have the grading breakdown for the course. So you have 4 exams totaling 40% of your grade. You have coursework totaling 30%, and then projects 30%. So exams are pretty straightforward. The first one is slightly less percentage than the other 3. And you can see your last one has a slightly higher percentage than the other 3. And that's because there's going to be some cumulative content covering the learning outcomes and learning objectives. So there's going to be a little more content on exam 4. For coursework, you have 3 different assignments. So the chapter modules are actually composed of multiple assignments, I should say. But each week is worth 5% of your grade. So you have 4 weeks, so 20% total is dedicated toward these chapter modules. In the next lecture video, or the next video I'm going to be recording for you guys, I'll go explain some of the assignments that make up those chapter modules. You have 5 discussion boards, 1% each, so 5%. And then you have 4 practical exams worth 5%, so 1.25% each. Lastly, you have 2 projects. You have a legislation project, which is worth 15% of your grade, and a disease project, also worth 15% of your grade. So as you can see, there's a pretty even split between exams, coursework, and projects. So even if you do poorly in one of these categories, if you do well in the other 2, you can still get a very good grade in the course. Likewise, don't neglect one of these, since that can definitely pull down your grade. Here's the grading scheme. And here are descriptions of the assignments. So for each exam, you're allowed 1 piece of paper, 8.5 by 11 inch, for notes, so a cheat sheet to use. Other than that, there are no other resources allowed. To complete the exam, as I said earlier, you'll need either a printer, a scanner, or some means of digitizing your work. So this is the second bullet point right here. So essentially, you need some way to show your work. I'm not going to be picky about how you accomplish that. Because I expect there to be some technical issues, as always, especially when you're digitizing your work, I'm giving you 2.5 hours for each exam. More likely, it will take you about an hour and a half to actually complete the exam, so you have about an hour buffer time in case there are technical issues uploading your work. You'll also have a lot of practice for doing assignments like this, so I'll ask you to upload your work and some of the assignments you're doing before each exam. Likewise, you have practice exams, so the practice exams as well will ask you to upload work, so you have some practice digitizing the work you have. Some more information on the coursework will come in the next video. An important note is that to access the actual exam itself, you have to take the practice exam. So the practice exam is not graded. It's only graded on participation, so you have to complete it, but you're not graded on whether or not you get the answer correct or not. However, you do have to take it to access the actual exam. And that's because I want you guys to be prepared, and a way you prepare is to take a practice exam before you actually take the real thing. Just FYI, I'll also send out reminders to let you guys know that you have to take that practice exam before you take the actual thing. For the projects, there's more information in the project's instructions folder on Blackboard. So most of this right here for Blackboard access, you probably already know since you're already logged in. But in case you have issues, here is the web address to find help, as well as the toll-free number for you to call. So they're 24/7, so if you ever have issues, you can always get a hold of them. So even though this is an online course, attendance is still important. So attendance, instead of actually showing up to class or lecture, attendance is actually logging to Blackboard and completing assignments. So if you disappear for 2 weeks or something like that, I'll have to drop you or withdraw you from the course. So it's very important that you're logging in consistently and completing assignments. However, of course, it's still your responsibility to withdraw from the course if you're not planning on attending anymore. As a gentle reminder, please make sure you have backup plans for any technical issues, especially when taking exams. So I'll try my best to prepare you for each exam, to remind you that you need to have a scanner or some way to print or some way to digitize or show your work. And in general, I won't be offering any sort of extensions due to technical issues. And that's for the same reason I'm not accepting any late work, and that's because we're on such an accelerated schedule. So we're moving at such a rapid pace that I don't really have time to grade late work and deal with all this sort of stuff. So please try to turn everything in on time, as well as to make sure you always have a backup plan in case of technical issues. There are no makeup assignments or exams except for long-term extreme emergencies. In that case, since we're on a 4-week schedule, you'll probably just receive an incomplete for the course and have to take it again another semester. Hopefully, since it's an online course, you won't run into too many issues in case you have to go somewhere. As long as you have internet access, you should be able to complete the course. I'm anticipating 2.5% worth of extra credit during the course. So 2.5% of the overall 100%, so quite a bit. So watch out for that. It will be assigned throughout the term. Course materials, so your actual assignments and whatnot, will become available at the start date for each week, as shown in the schedule below. An important note about regrades and issues with automatic grading. So for some assignments in Blackboard, I have set up automatic grading. Sometimes the logic in Blackboard does not work, especially with fill in the blank questions. You have to type it exactly how Blackboard wants it. So if this ever happens to you, don't freak out. Just send me an email within a week of when I return that assignment or you're able to view it, and I'll make that correction there. So just be aware of that. Be diligent about checking your assignments, so make sure you get your points that you need. So the honor code and academic dishonesty. So as a student of the San Diego Community College District, You have to abide by Board Policy 3100, which essentially says no cheating, plagiarism, and whatnot. Any attempt at obtaining credit for work that is not your own will result in a failing grade and a referral to the disciplinary council as appropriate. And multiple attempts at cheating will result in a failing grade for the course. In general, unless otherwise stated, all assignments are to be completed on your own. So unless I say something is group work, you're to assume that it's individual. So you must do it on your own. So here's some very important information on netiquette. So we're going to have some very controversial Blackboard discussions. So it's very important that you show proper netiquette while writing your discussion boards. So here are 15 tips on what to do. A lot of it is common sense, but please do read through this to make sure we have a civil discussion this term. In case you have a complaint, of course, come see me first. If you can't come to an agreement on solving the situation, you can then go up the chain of command to the department chair, the dean, the VP of instruction, and the president if necessary. But of course, always start with me first to see if we can solve your problem. If you have a disability or need reasonable accommodations, please contact DSPS, so Disability Support Programs and Services. They're in K204, and they can be reached at this number here. Also, of course, contact me as soon as possible so we can figure something out. So here's the schedule for the course. So as you can see, it's split into 4 weeks. And we have essentially 8 modules or 8 pieces per week. There are also, of course, other assignments. So you have things like discussion board posts, your projects, and exams as well. So I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Important dates, though, that you should be aware of. So the last day to drop without a W, so withdrawal, is 1/5, so very soon in the semester or in the term. We have a holiday on 1/16, so Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and the last day withdrawal from the course is 1/18. So I'll remind you of these deadlines, but it's important that you're aware of them. Of course, times and dates are subject to change. So while the schedule is nice, I have this calendar as well. So I would try my best to maximize the amount of time you guys have for each assignment, while at the same time being reasonable about when things need to be done. And because of that, the schedule is a little bit crazy as to when things are due. So for example, for this first week, you have from Tuesday to Saturday to complete the coursework and discussion board. However, for the projects, you have until Friday. And that's because I need time to look at those and make sure you get assigned to the correct topic or topic that works. The practice exam, you have until Sunday. And for exam 1, you have until Friday to Sunday. So as you can see, the schedule is very complex. And that's because I'm trying to give you guys the most time to do the various assignments. However, things are fairly consistent. The major difference here is in Martin Luther King Day on the 16th, which changes things up a little bit. So in general, you'll have until Monday to Saturday to do the coursework. You'll have Monday to Friday to do your project. You'll have Monday to Sunday to do the practice exam. You'll have Friday to Sunday to take exams. And on the weekends, you'll be doing some peer review. So for each part of your project, you have some peer review to do, so you'll be doing those on the weekends. So I highly recommend you keep a copy of this on your desk or wherever you're studying, so you're aware when things are due. I would also highly recommend you look at this at least once per day, just to make sure you're on course.